Hey listeners, viewers, and subscribers. This is Teja Moody. I'm one of the hosts on the Pending Recognition podcast here, and I just wanted to update you guys on a few things that have been going on. As of recent, our editor has just come back from vacation, so that's kind of why there was a little bit of a delay getting this episode out. But he's nice and relaxed. We've all been chilling, so we're back at it. Another thing of note is that our cameras, we're kind of acting finicky. If you look back at the Bethany episode, our latest episode, and the episode right before it as well, you'll notice the camera begin to flicker and kind of have some visual noise and lack of clarity on it. So we're going to go ahead and get that addressed by swapping out our cameras, selling those off to folks who are looking for like a degraded media type of look or something like that. Probably going to swap over to our phones to record feature episodes, but we have to like recalibrate everything and all that. So I just wanted to keep everybody on the same page that we'll try to keep it visual and audio episodes, but we will see. Thank you, and get ready for the Pending Recognition podcast episode with Keeran Woode. We're here on episode 7 with Keeran Woode of previously the Swimbirds, Stone of the Thrones. Currently, we are in
Dastat is my main.
Kee-Tones.
The Kee-Tones. I was getting there.
I loved it. That's why I heard the record you sent me. I loved it.
And I also have a jazz combo. We're called Standard Practice out of Grand Island, and I'm also, like I said, full-time musician, session guy. That's kind of so, I've kind of been associated with, I was doing the kind of like over 30 acts around Nebraska. Music's my full-time job. I do it, and I love it.
You're also doing booking over at Liederkrantz?
I am. I'm the booking manager at the Grand Island Liederkrantz. Been there since May of 24.
So that's where you are now. We've talked before, but tell us kind of where your musical journey began, because I feel like in the state of Nebraska, if not Kearney, it is one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard. So what is your musical background? How did you get started in music?
So music has been a part of my life, probably since I was, in my mom's womb. My late father, Morgan Woode, he was a drummer and percussionist from Ghana, which is a country in West Africa. He was a touring musician for over 35 years, toured internationally with some of Ghana and West Africa's biggest artists and stuff. He came to the States in 1997 with a band called Ashanti. He was with them until about 2002, 2003. Band broke up. Granted, I came into the picture a little bit earlier. My mom, she's not a musician. She's from Central City, Nebraska, which is a town of like 6,000 people. So a lot of it's, my musical influences was almost entirely from my dad. There was a time where I was like 6 or 9 months old or something. I wasn't even 1 yet. My mom had me in like the grocery cart at like Super Saver. And like I had like little cans of vegetables or whatever, and I was playing them like little conga drums. There were some people that like noticed. It was kind of funny. So I've been playing longer than I can remember. I think started formal lessons around maybe age 2.5. Perform for my preschool class at the Christmas time or whatever with my dad. So I've been playing since I was about 4 or 5 or so, and I've been really lucky enough to be doing music full time for about 3 years now, kind of living in his legacy. Not to say that I don't want to dive into it too deeply. I just feel like I'll focus on the details a little too much and mess something up. But
I feel you.
like I said, music has been a part of my life. Like I said, raised up on African music, West African music, Latin music, 70s R&B and soul, jazz fusion, smooth jazz, all the jazzes. Um, yeah, and like I said, just coming across all different musical genres and stuff, both in my my playing and just kind of listening and interacting with other musicians has been really nice.
Is there like any specific genres? I mean, again, you said you not only listened to but just lived in many different kinds of genres. Where are like the ones where like my heart sits here?
I think for me, like I said, jazz fusion is kind of home base for me because there's so many different influences. There's a jazz fusion band called Spyro Gyra that I've been listening to since, I mean, longer than I can remember. They have a lot of like Latin jazz fusion, kind of. They even have some like prog rock kind of mixed in there. It's some really cool stuff. So but like I said, Latin music. So primarily Afro-Cuban stuff. So like salsa, mambo, um, son, and like I said, all of West African traditions. Ghana, with like polyrhythms and asafo rhythms from the Fanti tribe, which my dad is from. In Guinea, like studying some of like the djembe stuff and all of that. Just kind of a little bit of, I would say, jazz, which is the U.S., African music, and Latin music in the Caribbean.
For the audience that may not be familiar, I've seen you both play traditional Western drums, a drum set, and all that good stuff like that. But then I've also seen you play a variety of hand drums, both live with different bands and also on YouTube and stuff like that. What are a breakdown of some of the hand drums that you play?
So the main one you'll probably see me playing are called conga drums. They're rather tall, barrel-shaped drums with either like a calf skin or a synthetic head, just kind of depending on the set of conga. Because I've got like 6 congas at home that I kind of have a little assortment I can choose from. You'll see me play the djembe, which is kind of a goblet-shaped drum. It's a medium height. That one I either play like sitting down or with like a strap to like stand up and play. You might see me play timbales, which kind of look like little toms that are a little bit not as a deep shell. They're metal. Like I said, various assortments of shakers, bongos, which are like a pair of 2 small drums, and not to be confused with congas, djembe, tabla. Enter any other percussion instrument here. I think for me, I always find great joy in being able to like, oh yeah, hey, the bongo player. It's like, well, it's a little more complicated than that.
There is
But at
more
the
going
same
on.
time, though, that gives me an opportunity to open people to, a completely different world of, instrumentation and music. So I accept those responses with open arms.
Is there any particular instrument that you already incorporate into your Western drumming style? Again, that's the drum set. Is there anything where any of those that you listed that you prefer over others when playing rock music or jazz music or blues?
So in the Western kind of tradition, I definitely, drum set is definitely my primary instrument. I've been playing drums since I was like 4 or 5 or so. Um, I also, like I said, I also play like concert percussion. So like, your concert snare drum, timpani and stuff. I am not as much of an active member now, but I play frequently with the Hastings Symphony Orchestra.
Oh yeah.
And I also, I'm marching percussion, so marching bass drums, marching snare drums, tenors, cymbals, because I'm the percussion instructor over at Grand Island Senior High. I work with the drum line and the percussion ensemble out there, so I try to be as diverse, when it comes to different percussion styles and stuff, because percussion is such a huge world. Like for instance, if you're a guitar player, right? You get a guitar, maybe a second guitar, an amp, and a pedal board, and you're set. You're a saxophone player. You have your alto, maybe a tenor. If you go crazy, maybe a baritone saxophone or a soprano saxophone, and you're good. Trumpet player, trumpet, maybe a flugelhorn if you get crazy, or some mutes or whatever, and you're set. Percussion, you've got drum set, you've got congas, you've got bongos, djembe, you've got, if you want to go crazy and buy a set of timpani and all the, various shakers, rattles, gongs, and other sound effect things. There's so much more instrumentation in the percussion world than there is in any other thing. So it's very, your versatility is going to be your biggest strength when it comes to being a percussionist.
So you talk about how you are a percussion teacher. Do you teach that organized with a school, with a church, or with a private company, or all three, or what's up?
So most of my, when it comes to my education, I have a contingency of about 15 or so private students that I teach at Ron's Music over in Grand Island. I've been the percussion instructor for 6 years over at Grand Island Senior High. We've got 26 percussionists that I work with once or twice a week. During marching band season, I do work with them every day for about 90 or so minutes a day. So, I mean, I've probably, in my, 6 years of educating, I would probably venture to say I've taught over probably pushing like 80 or so people how to play percussion in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, no, I really love it. It's definitely helped me become a better player because I really have to practice what I preach, to my kids. If I tell my kids to practice, I have to make sure I practice. If I tell my kids to have good technique, I have to have good technique. Those types of things.
Has teaching other people kind of influenced your own playing style, or basically have the students taught you anything ever?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely a lot more open to different styles of drumming. Like for instance, I have students, that are both right and left-handed. So, you're conventional. If you're right-handed, you're going to cross your right hand over your left hand, reach the hi-hat, which is 2 sets of cymbals to your left side. You're going to reach that and play on there. Have your snare drum, which is right in front of you, and your kick drum. If you're left-handed, you've got a whole, 3 or 4 different options you can do. You can play open-handed, so your left hand plays all of the stuff on the left side, and your right hand plays all of the stuff on the right side. Kind of like, or if you're familiar with the Dave Matthews Band, Carter Beauford, their longtime drummer, is an open-handed drummer. Now, he's right-handed, but he plays open-handed. So, for me, I'm definitely a lot better at playing open-handed, and it kind of influences my playing a little bit, and I'm having to tackle a lot more different genres that I normally do. I've got a lot of kids that are into the metal and prog rock stuff, so I've been having to work on my chops. I even had to break out the double bass pedal, which is for a jazz guy is kind of a faux pas. But if I got to teach my students how to play with the double kick pedal, I will do that. I have no problem learning stuff, to teach my kids, because who else, this is the thing about private teaching, having somebody, you can watch YouTube, and there's nothing wrong with watching YouTube videos or watching Instagram Reels or TikToks or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, you don't have that person to be able to hey, am I doing this? Or you don't have that, that kind of that feedback. Now, I get it. Private lessons can be expensive. I try to keep mine at a reasonable rate. But, there's the benefits, I feel outweigh the drawbacks.
You were talking about how some of your students are kind of into prog rock and maybe some more metal kind of a music. I hear the word heavy thrown around a lot, and I think of The Princess Bride, where he kind of hits that guy with, you keep using that word, and I don't think it means what you think it means. and I always kind of hold in my hands on the scale heavy and complex. And I know that percussion, when it comes to, kind of creating, composing that stuff, you can really see on paper heavy and complex. What does heavy mean if we're talking metal? Because I've had people tell me that pop song that country song, that thing that is aggressive is heavy. But then others tell me that more complex things is what's heavy. What was your take on that?
Oh man, that's a great question. Made me think drum philosophy. My goodness. To me, heavy is more of a like auditory signifier in terms of like not necessarily loudness or softness, but fullness. Like full tone, like playing, for instance, when you're playing on a cymbal, you can attack with just the little teeny tiny tip of the stick and get a very focused sound. You can also play with the middle of the stick and, have a lot more fuller sound from the cymbal. So when I think heavy, I'm thinking a lot more full, a lot more. I don't want to say dense because I think when you say complex, I think dense. But like you get a little bit more full frequency. You've got the lows, you've got the highs. And, you've got a little bit of everything. When I think complex, I think dense. Like, when you've got a bunch of different, rhythms kind of happening at once, or you've got a lot of notes happening in a very short amount of time. That's dense. That's, complex. But at the same time, complex, it's one of those things where like complexity, just like, virtuosity is just like, there's so many kind of different levels, just like infinity. There's so many different types of infinity for all you math nerds out there. It's complex. There's so many different ways because like, you can, have a very extremely focused sound, which does, take a lot of complex dexterity.
To accomplish.
But at the same time, like just like, you see like these, violin concertos that go like, or just like, shredding guitar, right? Just kind of, it's kind of like asking, having, Eddie Van Halen style, shredding versus Carlos Santana's tone. Those are both complex. I know that's kind of a non-answer, but it's one of those things that there's just there's a lot more under the surface.
Like, I feel like it's really not a non-answer because it not just only comes down to, well, it's subjective. It comes down to the way it makes you feel. Because I feel like heavy is not necessarily an interpretation of like emotional weight, but it's an interpretation of when you say density like that, when you hear something that's just like, how are these people accomplishing this, in a certain amount of time? Like, I am music illiterate, right? I have no music theory knowledge at all. But there comes a moment, whether it is, some sort of a death metal or, we'll talk about this one later, but technical death metal, stuff like that, when I hear good music accomplished very quickly, when I hear things that cannot be really accomplished slowly just because there's not enough time, unless we're going to sit here for 2 hours on one song, but accomplishing it all in that much little time is incredible and feels like a weight on my shoulders. Like, I feel like I'm witnessing something. And on that note, have you ever heard of technical death metal?
I may have, but please enlighten me.
So, there's death metal, just the people screaming, shit like that. Screamo, don't let the grandparents lie to you. That is something else entirely. That is the high pitch kind of stuff that's more just on a 4/4 beat delivery kind of thing vocally. Black metal, we don't talk about that. At least, not right now. Death metal is all that super aggressive stuff. Most people point to Cannibal Corpse.
Okay, I'm familiar with them.
And so stuff like that. However,
that guy's neck.
Dude, Corpse Grinder Fisher, dude, all neck, no man. The deal being though is technical death metal adds one pure element to the chaos: jazz. I shit you not. If you type in obviously death metal, you're going to get people grinded up in wood chippers, those kinds of lyrics. You type in technical death metal, you're now witnessing a sci-fi movie in musical form. We all went and saw a show from a band called Blood Incantation. Um, is that Omaha or Lincoln? Omaha?
Waiting room in Omaha.
Waiting Room in Omaha. And I listened to it a few times, and first of all, I expected them to look completely different. Dog, they are like the homeboy at like the Blockbuster at the local record store, the guy with the long hair and the mustache, maybe has glasses, maybe doesn't, chilling with an illegible shirt. And you think he's going to show you something heinous, and it's actually this really cool jazz album from the fucking 70s. And then what's happening is that person is taking those ideas home and transcribing them into heavier drums, 16th note blast beats, and maybe somebody's screaming over it, maybe somebody's singing over it. After we record here, I'll show you something really interesting. But technical death metal hits this zenith of boundary pushing that can only be defined in the way that jazz is defined as boundary pushing, because that is the core element that defines the technical part. They get away from the wood chippers and all that stuff, and it gets into very out there, maybe it's college oriented, kind of discussion about biology and stuff like that, sociology or whatever. The lyrics change, the music changes. And that I feel like is very interesting, because we were listening to the Kee-Tones album. Like, I'd listened to it before. Me and Waylon were listening to it while we were setting up this room. And it was the last track on the album. Yeah, it was the last track on the album. It was somewhere towards the end. The way the drums are filling, the way that one of the instruments was hitting, I think it was guitar or bass, there was just this feeling of, again, I say death metal and people automatically think, okay, screaming. Just this tonal texture of dissonant guitars around that same drumming style, that same delivery of lead guitar. Man. Like, is it my favorite music? No. Is it something that I think... is it something that I think, folks need to really check out, or that people who are jazz-oriented should look at? Yeah. That's what technical death metal is. Is there, again, when I think heavier, I think how distorted is the music. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where my thought usually comes into.
Understandable. Well, I mean, you know what distortion is, like a distortion pedal, like what it does, right?
So talk.
I'm gonna get eviscerated by the guitar police, I'm sure. But what distortion is basically just emphasizing different overtones from that one note. Just like when I talk about heavy, like for instance, like a heavy hitting drummer or a heavy drummer, because they're able to, access a little bit more of the cymbal, they're accessing a lot more of the frequency range from and I know I'm getting super duper sound engineering, feel free to, please don't turn off the podcast, but I get it. You're able to access, a lot more of the frequencies from just the fundamental. Granted, cymbals kind of, they play around with frequencies and overtones and all of that stuff, but the more you're able to fill it out, works similarly if you were to look at a waveform to a distortion pedal on a guitar.
Huh. I feel like the answer that everybody's looking for, because in the metal community, my God, these motherfuckers.
Dude, it's so heavy, man.
It's so heavy.
Dude, this drop, it's so deep, man.
And then you ask him, well, what makes it heavy, bro? And all of a sudden it's batting heads together, and it's like somewhere in the middle is the answer.
But I feel though, at the same time, back in the late 40s, early 50s, and very early rhythm and blues, jazz kind of thing. There was a similar situation that like with like jazz saxophonists that were trying to get super duper screamy when they were playing and get super duper heavy and stuff. And you had people acting very similarly to people at a metal show. Like people like just screaming, making these weird faces, like jumping around, causing chaos. I don't know if there was ever a mosh pit at these jazz shows, but from the pictures and the stories I hear, it's probably like a proto mosh pit. So it's one of those things. It's a very innately human response to that kind of music. Not necessarily makes you angry. It makes you animated. And if you've got, if you're angry or like have, something that you're, hold it deep inside you and you get animated, what happens to that thing deep inside? It comes out.
Something I also want to talk about too is, first of all, Black History Month, stuff like that. Kendrick Lamar, all kinds of things like that. But that's not what I want to talk about. It's more like I had someone say to me yesterday at the bar, not knowing that I worked there, I guess it's a meme going around or something. There was no good music before Elvis. That people did not really listen to music as a whole. Gentlemen in the room, everybody. Nobody listened to music apparently before Elvis. And the man was not drunk, he was just weird. My thing is, I want to bring it to not necessarily who built blues, because we know that answer. Is what was music like before Elvis? Do you know by any chance?
Oh man, going back to your original comment, I would like to respond to that person.
This hypothetical straw man, let's kill him. I mean,
where did Elvis learn his music from?
That's what I'm saying.
And this is the thing. I have nothing against Elvis. I have nothing against Jerry Lee Lewis and any of these early rockers.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, all of them credit their music to black artists. And I'm not trying to say that to be woke, or I'm not trying to be Dr. Umar Johnson. I'm really not. They said that they learned their music from black artists.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things, because I can't argue with these people. If that's where their influences are, great. If they learn from Mario artists, great. It's very easy to kind of get into this debate when we talk about musical influences. I'm more interested about like cultural influences when it comes to music than white, black, brown, whatever it may be. Because, there are people going through the same things. Everyone's got the blues.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And if I were to, like, for instance, I saw your interview with Paul Hainich, right? Paul Hainich is an amazing blues guitarist. He's white. If I were to go write him off and say, oh, he's white, he doesn't, it just gets, I feel like we overshadow some of those things sometimes.
100%. Because, I feel like it doesn't matter. I feel like it's more like the fandom kind of thing. If you're gonna jump behind somebody and go, well, that's a white artist, a black artist, or this and that, you're missing the point, man. It's human art. It's all of us. It should not matter who's up there playing the blues or rapping or anything like that. It comes down to just the quality, and good music is good fucking music. Period. Amen. And dude, I love that shit. Everybody has the blues. I heard that shit a long time ago, back where I'm from, and it was told to me like just in such a way of like, when you get that, you will understand like all music will make sense to you in some kind of way, shape, or form. Like to you, your own key for you. Don't be like screaming this at people and shit, but like it'll make sense. One thing also that I find kind of interesting, someone was saying to me also the other day, I was talking to one of my homies, and he said to me, rap music, blues music, no matter who does it, often imitated, never replicated. And like I think to myself, like, what does that mean? Like, what defines good music that cannot be copied in your estimations? And again, it's all just
Right.
it's
I mean,
opinions.
I do, and I understand. I mean, like, I'm not trying to say good music is not good music or whatever. But I mean, we can sit here and describe, what is good music, what is music. You know, I mean, granted, I know Ben Shapiro said that it's rhythm, harmony, and melody, and rap's not music. I mean, I think rap is music. I'm just gonna put that out there. I would wholeheartedly agree with that. But it's just one of those things where, like, and especially I think after, starting to do the booking at the Liederkranz and being, really checking out artists outside, I can tell you a good jazz cat, from like the way that they walk. Right. But like, I've always had kind of a blinder on when it comes to, harder rock or metal. And it's like watching these people be able to express themselves. It's like, man, this is good. Like if you were to, look at my like songs on Spotify, you would see a little bit of every little genre. Granted, there's probably a lot more jazz and R&B than, just because that's where I come from. But I feel like everyone's goal when it comes to music should be to express themselves. And I feel like even the common person has enough of a BS detector to tell if someone's being genuine or not. If they're being genuine, I have no, I might not personally have a preference towards it, but I have respect for it. Playing at music festivals and stuff, or, seeing some of the bands that I play, that, try to reach out to come play at the Liederkranz. I try to give everyone a fair shake. And it's very easy for me to tell, if someone's being genuine or not. And I feel like a vast majority of the bands that have reached out are very genuine. I want to put that out there. And it's just like, it's a lot easier to see or experience than people, I think, give credit to.
So you're the booking manager over at Liederkranz.
I am.
And that is located where, my friend?
So it is located at 401 West First Street in Grand Island. It's towards the south side of town. It's on the intersection of First Street and Walnut Street. So if you know where like the Heartland Event Center is from like the State Fair, if you take that road that goes right past South Locust, if you drive up maybe 2-3 minutes, you're gonna be right there. It looks like a regular kind of brick building. It hides in plain sight. Like I said, I'm born and raised in Grand Island. I've driven past that thing so many times. I've gone in it like once before I started booking there. It's such a treasure trove, and it's such a cool building. The Liederkranz as an organization. So Liederkranz is in German, translates roughly to circle of song, but it literally means song wreath.
Okay.
So music and the arts have always been at the forefront of the Grand Island Liederkranz, just like other Liederkranz organizations are spotted across the world. It started in 1871, which predates the city of Grand Island by like 3 or 4 years. The building itself was finished in 1912. I mean, of course, the renovations and stuff that are made. Very much like the Admiral or the old Sokol Arena in Omaha. Very similar vibe. Granted, we don't have the balcony. Well, it's there, but there's a false ceiling put in. It used to be, I mean, back in the day, I mean, like some of the biggest jazz orchestras, like the Glenn Miller Orchestra, made frequent stops there. Yeah, Glenn Miller Orchestra. Susan B. Anthony made a stop when she was trying to petition for women's suffrage. John F. Kennedy stopped by there on the presidential campaign at the Grand Island Liederkranz. And so many other amazing touring acts and orators and theater productions. Arts has always been That's always been the purpose of the Liederkranz. Now, just like a lot of major music venues and arts venues in Grand Island, towards like the end of the 80s, early 90s, there was just a drop off, just kind of culture wise and stuff. And granted, at the time the membership out there was getting rather old, so it's hard to maintain something like that all the time, especially when a lot of the acts that used to go there are starting to get older or kind of get spotty or dry off, or die off. So pretty much since the early 2000s there have been concerts every once in a while, but it was never anything consistent. Long story short, the guitar teacher at Ron's is really good friends with the current president, Ryan Rosendahl. And I guess Ryan, his daughter, knew me. He's known me since I was a little kid. He's like, well, we're trying to get this live music thing going back up again, and we can't think of anybody to start booking. Well, Kieran's a musician. Maybe he would, have a lead or something, which is great. Now, if I were to go and tell, obviously I am the booking manager at the Liederkranz. That is my job. That's what I'm employed by them to do. If I were to tell you that booking is in my wheelhouse, I'd be lying to you. I'm a musician who knows other musicians, and I've played enough shows to know what not to do.
There you go. Etiquette.
And that's really what I've been relying on. And of course, I look at resources like, okay, hey, how do you make a day of show form, or how do you make contracts for those types of things? But like I said, I've been very fortunate enough to, come across, like, say for instance, you play a show and you've got, a 3-band ticket. There's 2 other bands on the show. You talk to them, you connect on socials, or you follow their band on Instagram or whatever. Hey, I've heard of these guys. I've seen them play. They're great. Hey, do you want to come to the this venue in Grand Island? Now, and I know we were talking about this before we started recording the pod. Grand Island, just like, any other town of its size, we have about 60,000 people. Most of the bands that are around are mostly cover bands, which is totally fine. There's always a place for those types of bands, and I know people sometimes do. I don't knock it. I played in cover bands. They're fun. They already kind of have a little bit of an established scene. There are places and venues or bars, should I say, that host those types of bands. A lot of those shows are 21 plus, and more times than not, these bands have to bring their own sound system. The Heartland Event Center, they just got a new booking agency that is going to be taking care of, their concerts and their events. They're going to be at, hopefully, bringing in some of the more big ticket acts, the stuff that you like go to Ticketmaster and buy tickets to go see, assuming you're A tier, B tier type artists. So we've already got those 2 things hopefully in place and starting to get better. I feel like that is the climate that I've seen. The Liederkranz is something different. Our shows are all ages. We have our own PA. And we don't require you to play the whole night. That being said, the population that caters to, especially as musicians, are younger bands. I had a high school garage band when I was in school. I think we had like a one-off gig, last minute thing at the other side one time. Where do these bands go and play? No, we didn't have the infrastructure to take care of those people. And that, don't get me wrong. Here, Grand Island, which is a music festival that runs Fridays in the summer, has done a really good job of bringing some really, really great acts. I've been, fortunate enough to play there, a couple of times. But at the same time, that's, 10 to 12 Fridays in the year. What happens to the other 9 months of the year? Where do these high schoolers, where do these younger musicians have a place to play? Or where do the types of bands that you probably won't see at a bar play? Don't get me wrong, bar crowds are bar crowds. And if they're expecting Led Zeppelin, and you put a reggae band in there, you don't always have that. You don't always have that chemistry, which is, You
got 35% of the crowd, maybe.
Right. And that's, people have their preferences. I want to be different. That's what the Liederkranz is. We're different. I mean, like I said, we hide in plain sight. If you drive past it, you wouldn't know that's at a music venue. I'd hopefully like to change that. And I'm working on changing that.
So, talk to me real quick. Liederkranz, when you describe it, is it a fraternity? Is it a guild? Is it Assassin's Creed?
It is a social club, yes. Okay. Which is, I mean, there are really good benefits. We have, they put on different like German style events. Like, we've got Olympenball coming up, which is kind of like German Mardi Gras. We've got Summerfest, Oktoberfest, and different German style events. Because, I mean, in Grand Island, there is a significant German heritage population.
Okay.
But the concerts that both myself and Matt Huff, who also does some booking of some more singer-songwriter style acts, and he's been doing it a while. Started out as house concerts, but now we started to do them in the downstairs bar, the basement. Both of our shows are open to the public. Liederkranz live shows are open to the public. Because that's the first question I get asked. Because people, especially in Grand Island, know, well, do I have to be a member of the Liederkranz? No.
It's not like, what is it, the Eagles Club, where it's like sometimes they'll be like, hey man, members only.
Right.
So it's, okay, it's always open to the public.
Always.
Well, shit.
Right? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, at the end of the day, there are benefits to membership. I'm a member.
Yeah.
And membership for one person is $30 a year.
Shut the fuck up.
$30 a year.
Oh, sign me up. All right, but.
Okay? Think about it. I mean, like, think about the average fraternity dues.
Yeah.
Think about the average, like, for instance, I don't know if
hey, Greek life at UNK, you know what to do, fellas and women.
Right. $30 a year to be part of the legacy of one of the coolest music venues in central Nebraska. Oh, shit. And guess what happens? You pay that $35. Guess what happens the next year? $25 a year. And there's I mean, like I said, you get discounted rates to all of the major, like the festivals and stuff that I mentioned earlier. You're able to get a heavily discounted, like say for instance, they host a lot of weddings and receptions and parties and stuff. You get a heavily discounted rate when when you're a member. Those, and granted, like, we're working on finding ways to, create discounted rates for members at shows and stuff. We're still on the drawing board on that, and I'm, being transparent about that. But like I said, at the end of the day, there is no requirement to be a member to come to any of the Liederkranz live shows.
That, I mean, first of all, I'm not, like, not only ladies and gentlemen, but also you, like, I'm not shitting you, like, sign me up. That, like, I will bring you a membership sign up form. If not, I think I've got a PDF I'll send to you. Please, because that, I feel like, I mean, first of all, myself, right? But I feel like there's a lot of folks out there that want to be a part of something artistic, musical, community.
A third place. Because like I said, you got your home, you got your work or school, you got a third place. Where is that third place? And especially granted, I know with the new Conestoga Marketplace, they've got a bowling alley and, all of that stuff coming in. For a lot of high schoolers and younger people under the age of 21 in Grand Island, there is virtually nowhere to go to have fun. And like I said, like as a, relative, I mean, I'm 24 years old, so I know what it feels like to be, relative, I'm not too far from being under 21.
Mm-hmm.
I just stayed at home. I would much rather have people get out of their house, come see some live music. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. Then stay home or have a house party and go drive drunk, and those types of things. And the cool thing about it too is that if you're interested in getting involved, whether you're interested in being a musician, being in a band, or just being involved in the entertainment industry, there are opportunities. Like for instance, I've got stagehands that are almost entirely high schoolers. Where else in central Nebraska do you get hands-on experience that'll help you? Say, for instance, these kids graduate from high school and they go to college in a bigger city. Hey, I was a stagehand. Now I get to work, I might think about possibly becoming like maybe an audio engineer or a stagehand at a venue.
It's like, I mean, we did talk about that.
Like I said, it's all for me. It's all about building community. The music is obviously the forefront, but like I said, the community comes from music. Without the people to enjoy the music, what are musicians making music for? And I know that's a big philosophical question, and I'm not trying to get super deep in the weeds with that, but that's what I'm about.
Well, I feel like and again, without getting super in the weeds with it, it's like, first of all, I mean, you're giving high schoolers a place to help create the portfolio of their future. Air quotes I'm having. And what I mean is, it being hands-on at a venue will teach you so much, because it's not just the quote-unquote don't meet your heroes philosophy. It's, you'll never know who your heroes can be. You'll never know that it's maybe the roadie. Maybe, you know what I'm saying?
Well, this is the thing too, kind of
people in the background.
Right. Well, that, and like, it's going back to, like the types of, I want the Liederkranz to be where the next big band has their start. Not to say that I don't want to, I want to fill the place. Like I said, you got 500 capacity in the ballroom. Yeah, it's huge. You need to come check it out.
I need to go.
Really, all of you if you're listening to the podcast, I need you to go to Facebook or Instagram, follow Liederkranz Live, and come to a show and taste and see. Taste and see. And like I said, I'm not trying to pat my own back or be egotistical, but I know that this is an outpouring of love from me and all of the other people that make these shows happen. And anyone, both attendees, band members. Like I said, we had the Killigans, which is one of the most popular kind of Irish-tinged punk bands in the region, if not the nation. Well, probably, Flogging Molly and, But they said it was like on their top 5 venues that they've played at. And like I said, I've been working at this since May. So from May, we had the show in December. There's something to be said. And if the musicians are taken care of, that makes it so much easier for the audience to enjoy themselves too.
So I got a question, actually, to bounce off of that. Maybe to any traveling musicians who may be coming through or listening to this. When you're booking a show, what are the things that the venue that you are representing provides the musicians? Or like you said, you have PAs, you have things that they don't have to worry about. Tell me what that process sounds like, or that email looks like.
So a lot of granted, I've had people reach out to me, and I've reached out to bands. When it comes to set length, my minimum is about 30 minutes, just because you want to have something, succinct. Like I said, I don't have an age limit. I don't have any, limits on that. One thing, and especially to my heavier bands or, a little more profane bands, granted, these shows are all ages. That doesn't necessarily mean family friendly, but don't just say the F-bomb, like in the between songs, this isn't Denny's, this is the Liederkranz. And I may be a jazz guy, but I understand I get these references. But like I said, we are open to all, different genres. Like I said, I really want to put this out there. Like I said, if you're on tour and you need, a date, like say for instance, you're going between Denver and KC, Denver, Chicago, going, we're a really, really centralized location, in Grand Island. I'd be, we're open to all genres, all walks of life, all ages. Like I said, yeah, feel free. Like I said, message the page. And like I said, I'm probably going to be your primary contact for a lot of that stuff. We have bluegrass bands, we've got rock bands, metal bands, reggae bands, jam bands, blues bands. We really cover it all. Just like I said, just tell me what you do, and we'll figure something out.
Because like one of the things I find interesting is, like you were mentioning, there's that Kansas City Denver corridor. stuff like that. And a lot of folks miss that central Nebraska vibe. They might hit Omaha, they might hit Lincoln.
Really, Omaha has kind of established itself as a very major Midwestern music market, especially as of recent, which I'm really glad for.
Mm-hmm.
And playing some of the Omaha shows and stuff, it's really, really nice music scene out there.
But there's more for the traveling musician. There's more to Nebraska than just Omaha, Lincoln.
100%.
Hell yeah! So you recently sent me some music of yours from the Kee-Tones.
I did.
Over on Bandcamp. Now, that's not the only project you're a part of. However, is that the one that's right now the most active with the music, or what's up?
So the Kee-Tones is kind of a passion project of mine. It's a collective, and I know everyone, oh yeah, it's a collective. We finished recording. Also, shout out to Morgan over at Secret Studios. He's an amazing sound engineer. He's tracked and mixed and mastered the very vast majority of all of the tracks that I've as a solo artist, and as the band leader of the Kee-Tones. The catalog and stuff. He's awesome. I throw a lot of weird stuff at him, because I know he works with a lot of rock bands, and I throw him like jazz fusion and like djembes, and he makes me sound amazing. So this EP or release that it's already on Bandcamp now, but it'll be released to all major streaming platforms on March 6th. Or if it's already past March 6th, it's already out now, so go listen to it after you listen to this podcast. It's just a compilation of songs that I've composed dating as far back as 2022. Like I said, it's 5 amazing tracks of, you've got your generic kind of smooth jazz R&B stuff. You've got some Afrobeat inspired, tunes. Your kind of straight ahead jazz. There's some sparse in there. For me, like I said, the name of the album is Enough Groove, because for me, groove is always part of both what I play, what I write, what I listen to. That's always been my thing. Yeah, like I said, it was recorded over a weekend in March of 23. Took forever, because this is the thing. Being an independent artist, a lot of those fees are on you. And to track, mix, and master, even an EP, especially of that, it's like a 9-person lineup. Granted, not every 9 people are on every single track or whatnot, but like to record, to track, mix, and master, it is a very big investment that I'm putting into this, both out of, just time and money. So, and being a working musician, it's not always the easiest thing to just, front $1,200 to, record, mix, and master, and, pay, gas money and stuff. Because, it was a mixture of me, from Grand Island, some college friends of mine from Hastings College, some friends of mine that are, bandmates and working musicians out of Lincoln, trying to kind of bridge all of the amazing people I've been able to, collaborate with together and play some tunes of mine that I've wrote and I really love. Like I said, the Kee-Tones, as of right now, are entirely just a studio project. I'd love to bring it live. I really would. It's not it's at the drawing board stage. Because I feel like for me, and I feel like it's because I've been watching a lot of documentaries about Stevie Wonder, Prince, like Michael Jackson, a lot of those guys who just I want it to be big. If the Kee-Tones are gonna be playing live, it's gonna be the best show in the state, if not the region. I want it to be, a big production, just because, like,
labels be aware.
Bro, pick me up, please. But just don't take away my royalties. That's all I ask.
No 360 deals, please.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's kind of the thing. It's just a passion project of mine. And for me, I play so much live that, I've been able to, kind of pick up ideas, and stuff. And the amount of voice memos I have on my phone of just like little, ditties or whatever. It's just like, why sit on this then release it, build up my portfolio, kind of give people a chance to see all of the amazing stuff that I do. Because, I mean, like I said, I play live a lot, and not everyone gets to see me play live. But you can listen on Spotify, Apple Music, any major streaming platform, Tidal, whatever it may be, and get a taste of who I am, both as a musician and hopefully to an extent as a person. Because I feel like my influences are very entrenched in in the music, just because that's just we are kind of the sum of all of our parts. I know I'm getting philosophical. That's the problem.
Well, I'll tell you what. You have been Mr. Keeran Woode. You are a musician. You are a booking manager.
Indeed.
You are a professor and a teacher.
Educator, I would say.
An educator.
You get a little bit of everything.
And I have been me as much as I can be. And this has been the Pending Recognition Podcast. Hit up the Liederkranz. Hit up Keeran Woode. Listen to the Kee-Tones. If you need any kind of music lessons here in the Tri-City area, I'd recommend going over to Ron's Music. Or Yonda's Music for that matter. But Mr. Keeran Woode, if you're looking for him, you want to go over to Ron's.
I'm currently at an undisclosed location in the middle of Nebraska. I'm just